All right, good morning, everyone. We unfortunately don't have a quorum right now, so we're gonna wait a few more minutes. And I think we need to revisit our attendance policy because we have struggled with quorums. We do have a policy in place that if you miss more than 3 meetings, then you can be let go, I guess we say, or replaced. And, listen, this is a board that is important for the CVB. It's important for our community, and I know it's a pain in the ass to get here sometimes, but you committed to doing it. So either you're going to commit or you're going to go. Okay. So we are, because we try to make decisions quickly, and it's important that we set the tone for the marketing for the CVB, and we certainly want people to participate. That's when good things happen, when we have participation. So please take note. I think we should send out a reminder email to everybody.
Yeah, well, apparently when we had this conversation, I guess it was early last year, we didn't take a formal vote on it.
Oh, okay.
So, but we can't formally vote now because we don't have a quorum.
We'll figure, right? No.
So
when we
can
do
I
get a
ask,
quorum, hopefully
so
we
when
can
you're
vote on it.
online, so when you're online, it's not official?
That's correct.
This is Cheryl.
Yeah, because folks, that's a state law, okay? It's not local. And there was an exception to COVID because we were under an emergency order. But when that went away, all government meetings have to be in person. So a little backwards behind the times, but it is what it is.
So how many are we short? Quorum.
Tammy, do you know how many were short?
Yes. Let's do attendance. Why don't we? I'm gonna start the meeting. Okay. So welcome everybody to Wednesday, February 19th, Marketing Advisory Committee for the CVB or Visit Lauderdale. Can I take a roll call, please?
Yes, Ari Glassman. Bobby
Present,
Rodriguez.
but online.
Bilski,
Here.
Christine Soberns,
Here.
David Muir. Elaine Fitzgerald,
Here.
Ina Lee,
Yes, here.
James Pancallo,
Here.
Jenny Modione,
Here.
Joellen Felmeth,
Sorry, I
Carol,
be phone. Sorry.
Carol Lundgren, Keith Blackburn, Marie McKenzie, Matthew McNeil,
Here.
Melissa Milroy. Here. Cheryl Dickey,
Here by teams, though.
Michael Cook.
Here.
Raylan Story. Here. Robert Kessler. Ron Drew,
Here.
Thomas Park. Tim Petrillo.
Here.
Tom Freeman.
He's should be parking right now. He's close.
Jenna Boragine. Here. Catherine Bayha McLennan. Present.
We should, when Vaughn
Should have-
gets here, we'll have.
what's that?
When Vaughn gets here, we'll have.
Okay, good. So we'll when Juan gets here, we'll have a quorum. So I'll push the approval of meeting minutes when he gets here. All right, so let's start off with Ted. You want to give us your rundown? Dashboards. What do you?
I don't need a speaker. All right. We are, let's move on to the next slide. We're gonna have a clicker. I'm sorry. And am I smart enough to make it work? Okay, I love being in peak season because average daily rate begins with a 2.
Yeah.
So, that is sort of the great sign of success. We had, these are the data from January 1st to February 8th. It's largely January, but you get a good taste of February. February is the best per day month of the year. So every day that you can include from February makes things look great. the interesting thing that I took away from this slide is we went 2024 with hotel demand outpacing hotel revenue. Hotel revenue was down for most of the year. This is a really good sign of strength and stabilization that hotel revenue has surpassed demand in terms of percentage year over year of growth. So we are continuing on a very, very stable track there. Supply has come back. I think there are a lot of in the STR numbers, which is the data that is behind this. Supply comes and goes based on reporting. Refurbs and remodels are in there. We have a lot of supply that's not sort of entered from nowhere, but it's come back. So the numbers that we see from STR on that perspective have gone up. That's sort of holding the performance down. But again, pretty good sign. We're positive on average daily rate. We're positive on revenue per available room, and occupancy is largely flat. That's a little bit underperforming what we did in fourth quarter, but it's still relatively strong. Okay. In terms of the forecast, I was personally a little disappointed in January. I expected more out of it. Well, when I was sitting and figuring out what January looked like in February of last year, but I thought because last year it was so warm up north and so cool down here, I thought that the cold temperatures up north would drive a little bit more. It was also a little bit chilly down here, so it underperformed slightly. But again, these are fabulous numbers. Again, look at the ADRs. We're very, very close, within 3% on the RevPAR number. And there's the data, the forecast coming in. It looks a little bit better, but quite similar to 2024 in terms of the forecast. TDT revenue collections. This slide speaks loudest to the stability. You look at 2019, which I leave in there as a benchmark. I think it's important to look at, we are performing incredibly consistently, and it's getting better slightly. There's a little oddities. I think that the recovery didn't really happen until March of 2022. That sort of changed it. 2022 overperformed for that year in terms of the recovery. That said, since then, everything has collected together. We are doing extraordinarily well, and we are behaving very, very consistently in terms of bringing people to stay in our destination. In terms of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, there are a few stories here. In 2024, which is all the data that you see here, there was a lot of pressure on getting aircraft in. There were delivery problems with 737s. There were engine problems, not safety related, but I have to fix this with Airbus 300s. When you talk about Fort Lauderdale Airport, those are the two types of planes that matter. Everything else is just rounding error. So what you've seen, because there's a shortage, the look at the yellow line going down in the middle of the year, that is related to airlines not having enough planes, putting them in summer destinations, taking them out of our destinations. And you see how the yellow line is coming back. That's airlines taking them out of destinations that are bad in winter and putting them in. So we'll do better there. The other subtext is during the off-peak, Southwest took their flying, international flying, and moved it to Orlando. You see as the peak comes in, it's getting better. There's more airlines have had time to react. They're replacing the Southwest flights. Avianca is one particular. So passenger volume is going to go up a little bit, but again, it's a stable and relatively strong story. There's a lot of stuff going on, certainly with Spirit Airlines, certainly with JetBlue. That said, we're not seeing huge impacts of that. It is directionally, what's happening is good for our destination.
Ted, are we gonna see any more, like, in terms of Southwest, now they're laying off and so on and so forth? Are we gonna see some impact in them?
No, I think we've seen most of the things that we're going to see. I think they have profitable routes. They have unprofitable routes. The activity was somewhat unprecedented for them. They cut their headquarters workforce by 15%. we don't see that. That's kind of an efficiency thing. They'll make decisions maybe a little worse because they don't have as many eyes looking at the problem. In terms of flight attendants and pilots being out there and flying aircraft, that hasn't changed a bit. So they're just changing how they do things. That's more internal. Will we see it? If they find that these routes are not profitable, which is certainly you're not going to see with us most of the time. So yeah, I don't anticipate the news coming in there impacting anything that we will see on the ground. Cruise volume, it blows it up still. I mean, it's really kind of off the charts. It's interesting to see that in November and December of last year, Disney was new, so they were filling absolutely everything. There've been a lot of up gauges in ships. There have been more ships introduced. All of that is kind of going up and to the right. Expect that to kind of come off its highs at some point, but for now, it is really on fire and doing very, very well. Okay, last time I was asked to talk about the economic impact of events. I want to give sort of an intro to how I've looked at it. It's not necessarily the perfect way. There are sort of good things and bad things. The way that I look at the tool that I have comes from Oxford Economics, and it really heavily values overnight stays and hotels. So you're seeing that people, the way to make the economic impact calculator look better, bring more people who are not from the Tri-County area and have them stay longer. So the three things, I'm pretty practiced, I don't say good, but I'm practiced at deconstructing models that people hand me. I can look at the inputs and say, okay, this is going to be in there. So what you will see is an undervaluation. If I'm running a restaurant, for instance, I want to count everybody who came from Palm Beach and everybody who came from Miami. That is economic impact that is great for me. That's not directly in this calculation. So if we want to deep dive into any particular event, we can do that. This is a high level overview driven by how a hotel would look at it. So that's sort of the basis for that. We can go on and go through some events. I haven't put all the events in here, but I think this is instructive, if not. And I encourage any of you to reach out to me. We can, if you have an event you want me to look at, I can look in more detail. You know,
But this goes in line with what the charter speaks to of heads and beds.
Exactly right.
So
Yeah, exactly. This is the reason that I look at it this way is
that's how it's
because
funded.
this is how we're funded. So it is that issue. There are other impacts that can be in there that are fabulous for the community.
Right.
This is about heads and beds to a large degree. Okay, first one up is the Fort Lauderdale Air Show. The economic impact there is about 8 million. Percentage of non-locals is 14%. We're going to overperform. There are a lot of people coming from Palm Beach County. There are a lot of people coming from Miami on this one. So that number is probably higher than what I have out there. 44,000 attendees, an expected room rate near 200 in a shoulder season. Again, there's a lot of good stuff and everybody staying in Broward County. So very positive event for us, but it is a very local event for us.
So it doesn't really say length of stay though.
No, it doesn't, but it's a 2-day event.
Oh, okay.
So when
typically,
I look at
what's the-
sort of, yes,
What's the hotel get to stay? Is it 3 days? Is it
it's,
four?
yeah, it says 3-day-ish. Yeah. So you're only a 3-day long event is going to be on the good end of that. A 2-day long event will be, call it average.
Okay.
So, slightly on the other side of average. Yes.
Can you define requested room nights? What does that mean?
That is, we go and work with the convention folks and they will say, okay, they go to hotels and ask for room nights that they book and say, okay, we're preparing for air show. How many of these, how many people are we going to deliver? How many room nights do we want to set aside to put people in? So that's something, how our convention folks do room requests. They will go set that to contract. So people coming in and say, okay, here's my event. This is how many room nights I believe we're going to get. So that's the nature of that. Okay, moving on. Bowling on the Beach. It is a youth basketball tournament. It is over Father's Day weekend. And it is this one is fantastic.
What is it?
Let's get them back.
I'm sorry. Yes, it's a basketball.
Oh, basketball.
It's a basketball tournament, yes. So it comes in, this is kind of a great example. It's an relatively shoulder to off-peak time. Your average roommate rate is over $200. I looked at as I laid the places that they went that came in placer to what STR told me, and for where they go, there's a 22% room night premium that these folks bring to what the average hotel stayer is doing. So the 30,000 attendees who are there for a 3 or 4, 3-day event basically has a huge impact because a lot of folks are coming from out of town, 24 million into the bottom line. It is a really good one. And one of the great things about Ballin' on the Beach is that it uses 53 different hotels throughout the county. So it is really helpful.
And is this a one-off or continuing?
Continuing, we do this every year, and it is my sincere hope we will do it until the end of time.
I have a quick question. What are the main drivers for economic impact? If air show is about 8 million and this is 24 million?
Event attendees and percentage of non-locals. Percentage of non-locals will be people driving hotel rooms.
So it's mostly hotel rooms.
So it's hotel. This is all this model was built to calculate the impact of hotel stays, basically. So there are aspects of it that are going to be undervalued if you get people from Palm Beach and Miami coming up, because I'm lumping them as locals. So in any case, okay, Taylor Swift. We talked about this one before. It is 80 million bucks is what it is overall. But the fact that 25 to 30 of it accrues to us, and 72% of concert attendees are from outside of South Florida. So again, it's going to drive a lot of economic benefit because it's driving a lot of heads and beds. And we get half the hotels, which is it's an event that was down in Dade County, and we get half of the hotel visits. So that's great. And okay, Panthers. Panthers was a largely it was 70%. It's kind of in between event. We have 25 to 30%. I struggle with this because I don't have Canadian cell phone data. So Canadians, I have to sort of I compared the rate. The rate was 19% of locals from when it was the Edmonton Oilers. I can't see them. It was 25% when it was Las Vegas was the one in the finals. So you can figure this out. It's about 6 million a game, sort of give or take. The parade probably would have been 6 million if the weather was not so awful. But it is, again, for a very, it's kind of a quasi-local event. You've got a huge contingent of local in there, but there are a lot of folks coming from outside. So again, it's very impactful. If you can generate 6 million for a day in economic impact, you've got an event on your hands. Tortuga. This is fantastic. You look at the percentage of non-locals at 56%, 94,000 event attendees. It's a 3-day event, which is a fabulous thing. So that's why those factors push that economic impact up a great deal. And you look at the average room rate. The fact that it starts with a 3 is, wow, that is absolutely off the hook. And oh, by the way, they all stay here. So 98% of the hotel visits are in Broward County. So I am a huge fan. Comparing, yes.
So is it possible to get it should be pretty easy to get an ROI on what we invest, because there's an ongoing commitment that we get for Tortuga that the CVB gives to them. And just out of curiosity, what's our return on what we invest versus what the economic impact is?
Okay, I would have to sit down and put pencil to paper on that, because it's a little harder than you think, but it is very doable exercise. It's just getting to doing that, the impact.
Yeah, because a lot at the TDC, we see a lot of events, and it would certainly help to, have the conversation of what it has returned in the past versus moving forward.
That's right. Yeah, because I mean, the reason I use 2023, 2024 was an aberrant year.
Right.
It was the eclipse was on the weekend.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of reasons why this is the right data to look at there. And I just wanted to go Riptide. I didn't sort of do the full analysis. That's about 20 to 30,000 people again on my measure of it. 30% non-local. So it's a less local event, but it is a non-local event. I would argue you've got 30% non-locals. So something that I believe we miss certainly because it's on a shoulder weekend and earlier was, depending on the year. But in any case, I just wanted to sort of hint to that. But this is, like I say, this is a happening, and happenings are fabulous for everyone's bottom line. Sports conventions, I sort of stepped back. I prepared sort of what does sports do? Sports delivers room nights in off-peak times. So it does it. And when you look at this, I don't have a thing, but when I look at the AAU events and balling on the beach, you're dealing with about 80% of it being non-locals. So you're bringing folks in, they're staying throughout the county based on, because these are people who travel with their kids for sports. It is, 50% of what we do sort of, it's like half and half with the convention stuff. A lot of attendees, a lot of incremental room nights, and it's a big number. So if you look at it, $400 million with as an entity, very nice to see. And here's sort of the granddaddy of them all, I guess, is you have the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show, 45% non-locals, economic impact, not buying and selling, watercraft is 600 million. This is hey, you're coming here for an event, you're spending your money, you're staying in our hotels, you're doing our events, etc. 100,000 event attendees. And again, we can haggle over 120 versus 95, that's there. Contracted roommate, again, 350. You say, wow,
Twice.
you're fabulous. And all the other stuff you do is going to reflect the fact that you're willing to pay 350 for a room night. So again, very, very positive. This gives us this is the thing against which all things are compared, because it's a longstanding event. It is very, very valuable to the destination, etc. And now I will move into, remember that number, because when we look at IPW, I had to go in and deconstruct a model. They basically Rockport Analytics goes in, they say, okay, this is how we measure the impact. I took their inputs and said, okay, this is what we're likely to do in 2026. So I put together a pro forma that basically said, okay, on a 1-year basis, the return we get from incremental folks visiting our destination is going to be 373, million in terms of what's coming in. The 3-year total is going to be over $1 billion for what we're delivering. It's a convention of 5,000-6,000 folks. That's not what I'm measuring. I'm not sort of putting the slide up that says, okay, we have this. The return on this particular event is going to be, $3 million or $5 million or $10 million. The real measurement is these are travel influencers, people who are actually billing the packages that people are buying. So when you think about it, this is about 2/3 as good as Boat Show on a 3-year basis. It's huge. So
and it's new people to the destination.
when we ask, exactly right, and we have a 75% return rate for people who come to the destination, we are 75% sticky. So that is fantastic.
Out of curiosity, this might be a question that you're not going to be able to answer, but how did you run those numbers to get to that? Was it a certain amount of buyers that if we're having 6,000 people through the IPW, we figured 30% would then be buyers in this market, or how did you come to that?
They developed a very intricate model, which had, they did.
Okay.
And I took that and I said, okay, these are the inputs that went to Anaheim. These are the inputs that went to Denver. These are the inputs that went to San Antonio. This is what came out of it.
Okay.
We're going to produce these inputs. This is what
Based on
we're going to
their
put out.
models.
So it's just reverse engineering a model to do that. So
Right.
that's what people like me apparently do. So in any case, that's what I got. But the big message here is IPW matters. Please be involved and please make it a success and everything we do, because the return is astronomical.
And get more major events like Tortuga and more major sporting events on the beach. How's that- how's that prove?
Michael?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So we have a couple of things coming up at with FIFA,
Yes.
summer. Is there any way we can get any type of figures on what we think is going to happen on that? Because it's a very strange schedule on
Yes.
how it works throughout almost a month. You know,
Yes.
but I'm hearing that, Miami's going to be the headquarters for, all of it.
Yes, yeah, and what,
It's in 3 other cities.
what I would say is that there are sort of two events. One is, the far one is the actual World Cup. And there is a sub-event that's coming, which is the best clubs in the world come and play. That is not trending. It's going to be a positive, certainly. It's not going to light the world on fire because it hasn't in other parts of the world. So past incarnations of that, it has not taken off yet. It may take off. I don't know. It is not, I would not be holding, if I'm a revenue manager, which is what I am by training, is I would not be holding a lot of inventory from that. I would expect a tweak, but that's just pennies from heaven. It's not something to manage around.
Is anyone seeing it? We're seeing it.
Yeah, we have a team staying with us
Yeah.
for 15 days. We have one at Four Seasons, Real Madrid's at Four Seasons Palm Beach. We have Borussia. So we're taking teams versus fan base and abundance of caution that Miami eats it all up.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yep, same.
So like I say, I have an opinion on that. I've seen I looked at the data from past events. The World Cup is going to blow it up
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
people's
Yeah.
live and die by it. That said, the club one has never really taken off, and the club games are very direct interest. You're not getting the biggest clubs with the best name recognition who are playing here. The games are set. There's one game, they're going to be excellent games. That said, there are not marquee games. The marquee games are in New York. So that's, again, I don't know.
I think we were looking at one of the games of Messi's playing and something. So
Yes, there are very good
We're gonna
games.
see.
They are, but
Argentina.
when I look at them as a whole, if you're a soccer fan, you're going to like the games that come here because they're going to be very competitive. They're going to be excellent. If you are somebody who wants to see big name teams, there will be big names teams here, but the game, sort of the match setup is not, it's not going to it's not going to change the world based on, again, what has happened in the past. It could change. That's a caveat with everything. I'm forecasting out of the rearview mirror on this, but based on how it's worked in the past and the matchups that are there, there's a lot of name recognition. There's a lot of happiness and joy if you are into soccer. If you are not,
So
it's
similar
not.
to F1 then,
I think
we're
everyone's
going to be doing anything, are we going to be doing anything to try to drive like F1, right? I know you guys are doing a great job of driving teams to your hotels and stuff like that, but
Yes.
we're doing, we doing anything with people then.
That's not what I do.
I think we're gonna save that for the agency update.
No worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I think that you should know that FIFA, thank you. Hi. FIFA's asked for $4 million from us. And their deliverables do not anywhere reach the level of that kind of commitment. In addition, they'd have to go to the Board of County Commissioners to get approval for anything over $500,000. We have a counter proposal that spends the money on on destination marketing, which FIFA won't be happy with because they want us to write them a check. But we saw with the Taylor Swift thing that we didn't spend a dime and we got 49% of the hotel. So I'm going to meet with her next week and we're going to talk about their proposal, which is really light on deliverables. But I quite frankly don't see us giving her $4 million, giving them $4 million bucks. But, I mean, if you have, and if you have different ideas, please let us know before you won't see it next week.
Yeah.
You're supposed to see it next week, but they asked us.
It's tomorrow, isn't
Sorry,
it?
tomorrow, right?
My calendar tomorrow.
Yeah, don't forget.
Yeah.
We'll be there. Yeah, here. So they asked to postpone it till May, because the TDC has to review it before it goes anywhere else.
But that's all I have. And again, that's just me forecasting with the data that I have. What we do as a destination is, decided, from a marketing perspective, is not something that I am.
Yeah, I mean, I
Active
think we're
purchase.
on an industry just trying to figure out what the impact's going to be.
Yeah.
This summer, trying to make the right decisions right now
Right.
for summer.
Yeah, no, and I totally get it. And that's like, but I talked to Heiko about this a bit because he had asked me that question directly, which is what got me into researching the FIFA club champions and whatever they call it. And that was what I saw was, it has not been what people associate with. It's not been a World Cup like event. And the question, will it get traction someday? Perhaps it will. Are the data lining up for it to be a super, super big, outstanding thing? Not as much, it's not gonna be a game changing thing. You will see benefit to it certainly, but it's not gonna change the world.
Yeah.
Based on.
Any other questions for Ted?
But thank you very
Yeah.
much, Ted.
Thank you.
It makes a big
Great
difference.
report, as always. Thank you. Now that we have a quorum, can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
I,
Right, approved.
Vote on our attendance policy.
Okay, so back to now that we have a quorum, I would like to make an official policy and vote on it for attendance here. Okay, currently as it stands, which I think we should keep, is you're allowed to miss 3 meetings in a year. And if you miss more than that, you're at risk for being replaced on the board. Not guaranteed, but we want active members on this board. So that motion is, does anyone want me to make a motion to support?
I'll
that?
make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? They're not here. Okay.
But what would help is if we got the meetings in advance and we get them on our calendar. Okay, that way everyone knows, it is what it is. And that way, quite frankly, they don't have an excuse, but they could have an excuse, but at least they know what they know.
All right,
Yeah, got it.
All right, well, do you want to do a marketing update, please?
sir.
Thank you.
That's all right. Good morning. Good morning.
So many of you attended our annual luncheon, which was phenomenal, and thank you for your support. But so I'm going to talk about a couple of the large things that we shared at the luncheon. So let's look at some of the big ideas that we announced. First, we're driving the destination forward and fueling the industry for speed. For the 2025 Visit Lauderdale season, Visit Lauderdale is going to be sponsoring the IndyCar, North America's premier open wheel auto race. Get ready to see Visit Lauderdale take over all things IndyCar, even before the season kicks off. Visit Lauderdale's imagery will be on the transporters carrying these fascinating cars across the USA. We'll also be featured on drivers' fire suits, and we'll have a presence at every single game and every single race through their video cam. And guess what? We're leading the charge. We are the first CDB to ever sponsor an IndyCar, so that's major for us. We also have this year, we're exploring the partnership with Baskin Robbins. We're looking at, Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors. We have 31 amazing municipalities, and we thought that was a really catchy tie-in to focus on that. So stay tuned. We're going to be working on some pop-ups and identifying areas where we can market our Baskin Robbins partnership. So those are still in negotiation. And then it's no secret that Greater Fort Lauderdale is the place to be for winter and year round. We have decided to create a disruptive campaign that is going to be, has rolled out in January and is pretty impressive. The digital components of the winter campaign rolled out in early January, just when winter storms were beginning to hit parts of the country.
It's cold out there this morning, campers. Temperatures dropping well below freezing once again. If you don't need to be outside, don't be outside.
So those commercials started running in late January and have been extremely impactful. We also incorporated, this week, we launched the first activation in Times Square with the 3D billboard on the queue. And we're excited. I think this one has an animation as well. You can see how that's done.
On the corner.
Yep. And then, as we close out the season, we're heading to chilly Chicago for live activations on Pioneer Court along the Magnificent Mile. Imagine a 10 by 20 glass shipping container sitting pretty on one of the most famous shopping areas in the world during one of the busiest times of the year. It'll be during St. Patrick's Day weekend in Chicago. The glass facade features smart glass projection technology that appears clear than shadows when triggered by a foam sledgehammer. People will then step inside the warm tropical themed space where brand ambassadors will greet them with warm, welcoming vibe of Greater Fort Lauderdale. And they can shed their jackets and enjoy a moment of reprieve from the cold. We're also making a splash through Chicago and New York with bus shelter takeovers featuring our beautiful imagery. During driving those residents to visit and escape the dreary winter and book a trip to sunny Fort Lauderdale. We've also partnered with influencers from New York, Chicago, and Atlanta to reach more than 500,000 followers. Now let's talk summer. This summer, many of you may have heard that we have partnered with Michelin Guide. This guide will allow us to participate with Palm Beach with the St. Pete Clearwater and the Palm Beaches. Miami, Tampa, and Orlando are also included in this guide. And then Michelin will be making announcements in April and more to come on that in terms of the restaurants that are going to be included and participating. We touched on the Baskin and Robbins partnership, which I think is, again, going to be a really cool partnership. And then for Dine Out Lauderdale, we're really going to be focusing on refining that partnership. And we're going to bring in some more luxe offerings, offering exclusive dinners and classes, as well as more competitive menus. So we want to align with the Miami Spice, but we also want to be competitive. It's running at the exact same time. So for this year, we're going to offer $35 lunch, 2 dinner options at $45 and $60. And the program will run from September to October. So our primary focus for the summer this year is going to be on culinary, and we'll be putting lots of ad dollars, social media, and other components to help tell that story. Just a quick update on what we've been doing. Tony, you want to give an update on IPW?
Sure. IPW. Woo. All right. So if you aren't familiar with IPW, it brings a lot of people here, as you can see. It's a lot of countries. You've probably heard say this a million times, so you should be familiar with it by now. But a lot of folks from around the world, a lot of delegates, 6,000 delegates, of which 2,000 are really the people we're targeting. So that's the tour operators, media from around the world. But we'll take the money from everybody. So we're deep in the planning process. Olivia couldn't be here today. She is really heading up the planning around it. Tracy is here, though, who is our expert on all things IPW. So a great resource, too, if you want to talk at the end of the meeting to her about some of the questions you may have around IPW. But we're just going to show you some of the things that we've got through so far. We are 446 days from IPW. So it's coming up pretty quick. Anyway, planning process updates. We're going to go through a little bit here. We've got our internal teams meeting. We've divided our staff up into different areas of concentration for the event. And we're really rolling out of that planning stage into the execution. So it's defining the things we need, arranging for whatever we need to be, wherever we need it, and as well as approaching the community partners for specific asks. So you're going to see a lot of that in just these slides. So go to the next one.
I was like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna clicker and moving stuff.
So when we talk about the destination experience, it's hard to see the small writing, but the bottom line here, those first steps that we have with the tour operators, the receptive operators, everybody, we want to do the show off the community while they're here. Yeah, they are the most important customers coming for IPW. We need them to get immersed in the entire county. So a big part of that is taking them on tours of the community on the first day before the actual business operations of the convention start. For that, we have themes that we've identified. There's 5 of them: adventure, nature, food and drink, history and heritage, art, hands-on sort of thing, and water culture. So these are the basically the tours tentatively that they'll be able to sign up for, and they're required to sign up for to go on around the community. So they're going to get on a bus after another event that they go to, get on a bus, and for hours they'll be going around the community to see these themes. The call to action, and we're starting with the stage, we're actually ready to start asking for a call to action from community members here, is if you have something that maybe we wouldn't have thought of that's unique, something we could hang our hat on that would fall into one of these themes, we need you to tell us that. And even if we've already thought, tell it to me, because we won't want to miss out on something. We have finite time So it can't just be come to my restaurant or come to my whatever. It's got to be something unique. Imagine that it's that travel writer that's coming from France or something, you know, they're not going to write out it's just another restaurant. It needs to be some sort of unique, immersive thing that sets us apart. But we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of that. So when I look around the room, I see people from all over the community here, Hollywood. We talked to some folks from Deerfield. We're talking to people from Pompano, all over the place. We want to make sure that this tour is one of the best opportunities to make sure that they're getting out throughout the community to see the whole place. So think about this, get back to me. Time is of the essence on this. So if you have ideas, please get back with me. I'll get you the right people. Moving forward, volunteers, we're deep into this. We are estimating that we're going to need several hundred people to work throughout IPW. So this is everything from touch points at the airport and at hotels to teams that'll be walking around the convention center. Every minute these people are in town is an opportunity for them to be upsold and for them to be sold on how welcoming and warm and all the things that there are to do here. And so human beings are going to be a critical part of that. So we've got training ideas that we're working on, organizational ideas around the volunteers. There will be an ask for that as well coming up. We want to make sure that we have a different, very variety of different qualifications for our volunteers. There are places where a student will work just fine, but there are places where we need some very invested people maybe to be in the high profile touch points. Those are people who are truly, you know, yourselves or other people around our community that are VIPs that would be better to have in those positions. Transportation, well underway for that. So IPWs, you know, this is 100 motor coaches moving around. It's water taxi. It's a lot. We can move people from as far away as the Diplomat to the convention center. So organizing transportation of this is pretty complicated. We've got that moving forward. And then airport, we're deep in conversation with the airport, of course, and actually past conversations, already to kind of some execution phases, so that when you get to the airport, you can't miss that you're there for IPW. You hear the announcements. You hear it's all one of the senses is touched when you get to the airport, so that you know you're here and that your needs are met as an attendee, and you're not sitting there thinking that we're not a welcoming or a good place for tourists. Press brunch, working on that. So before those tours, there's a press brunch for the 600 or so members of the media. That'll be over in Pompano. So they're working on doing that out on the pier there, and then they'll leave the tours from there. The opening events. So the opening event will be over on Central Beach or just South Central Beach. They're over in Fort Lauderdale. Think about where Tortuga is. And then the closing event will be out front yard of the convention center in the new pavilion. So working on getting through that, as well as working with potentially Visit Florida for the closing event. But for the opening event, that's a big opportunity. That's 6,000 attendees going to that. So there's gonna be some vignettes you'll see about opportunities for us to really show off the cool attractions around town, create a really lively atmosphere to get them pumped up for being here. Convention center experience. So we're looking at different opportunities here for the convention center. So again, it's activating them when they're here. They're doing business, they're meeting with clients and all, but we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of the moment they get off that motor coach or that water taxi and walk into the convention center, to just making that a very welcoming atmosphere with concierge services for bag checks and other just little details that are, every step of that way. What is that visitor journey? And the same with the hotel experience. We want concierges there, signage, people there to help guide them to the transportation, reduce all uncertainty to make sure every step of the way they're treated like the VIPs they are. For the opening night, you can see here we have different zones. So the idea is that when you get to the opening event, you get to get immersed in our culture, in our experiences, in kind of a theme park atmosphere almost. So you come in, there's going to be 5 or so areas, tents, whatever. They're going to be decorated appropriately. You're going to feel like you're in a sense of place, very experiential escapism when you're walking in. It's a whole new world in each one of these zones. And they concentrate on the different, attractiveness of our community to a tourist. So it's that diversity, the culture of our community, the nature and the wilderness of our community, that nautical theme, the yachting theme, the partying kind of theme of our community, and the underwater kind of shipwrecky side of our community. So we're trying to hit on a bunch of different areas. So imagine, the Mai Tai Flame folks out there in one of those spaces. Imagine kind of a yacht experience in one, or the airboat in an area, airboat set up in an area. It's that immersive experience. It's about the food, the drink, so that when people walk in, they're hungry, they're thirsty, they're getting the opportunity to get 6 specific bites that really leave them. That's the food we hang our hat on, or those are the drinks we hang our hat on. It's going to be a heck of a party, but it's going to be an opportunity to really show off that we are a welcoming place and that we have a lot going on. And then let's see here, closing night. Again, tentatively talking with Visit Florida here to get them to do the closing night. That's typical. Usually the state destination organization takes over the closing night to do something. This would still be an opportunity for us to show us off, but this time would also be a chance for the rest of Florida to be a partner. So right in the front plaza there. That was a lot. So I know I zoomed through those fast. You guys probably heard IPW a million times. By all means, if you have questions, now it's time to ask them or direct them to Olivia or myself. Yeah.
What are we doing in 25 in Chicago to promote our destination?
Great question. And part of this, Tracy, actually, would you like to talk to that?
Sure. So for 25, we're actually doing quite well with our partners that are participating with us. We're going to have a total of 12 10 by 10s in the appointment taking areas. And that's 7 partners that are going with us to have their own set of appointments, which is great for us. I mean, in the past, we've had 4, so we've brought on some new properties and new people to join us at the appointment, as well as those that take appointments with us. We're actually taking Glenn as well and having one of our 10 by 10s being dedicated to sports related to help talk to those buyers. So we'll have a total of 5 sets of appointments that are Visit Lauderdale, and then 7 different partners that will be there as well. So we're going to have a great presence on the trade show floor, largest that we've ever had. And then we are also going to have an interactive stand that will be, so I don't know how many of you have ever been in McCormick, but it's huge convention center. So they have 2 massive spaces that where the trade show will be, and across the big pre-convention area is where the luncheons will be. We are going to be front and center as they go into the lunchroom with this large interactive stand that's going to basically take up the space. And the idea behind what we're doing there is to actually kind of recreate what they're going to experience when they come here and have opening night. So we're going to kind of create that beach feel, kind of tell our story there with different types of, things that will affect your senses. We want smell, sight, sounds, and so forth. So we're working with Freeman, which is the trade show. They create the stands and so forth to create. We're going to have like a life stand, lifeguard stand there that, we'll have some lifeguards. We're hoping to have some juice that's made here in Broward County. We want to tell the stories of the turtles. That's important to us that we're talking about because on opening night, it's turtle season and it's going to be part of our story that night as well. And people love that for us to be able to tell some of our environmental story. So we're really looking at how we can really get everybody very, very excited. And I think we've talked before, the last time they were in a beach destination was Miami in 2009. So it's been a long time. And I think people are going to be very, very excited about the idea of coming to the big city with a beautiful beach. So we're very excited about that. So we're going to be telling that story. So we'll be on the stand. We'll have so many partners with us as well. And then having this interactive stand as well, that will be all 3 days. We'll have that available as well. So
That activation, kind of a neat part about that too, that the experience we tried to have Freeman working on and finish the design for us yet, but we told them that museum quality experience. When you're walking for that 40 feet, you need to feel like you are on our beaches on their way to lunch. And, our staff will be there handing out things along with partners, get people excited about coming here, but that's light, smell, everything. So we used the Broad Walk actually as an example. We were walking on Google Maps through the Broad Walk and showing them, imagine that walkways. People are walking from the exhibit halls into lunch on the Broad Walk, and you got the ocean to your right, and you've got the little tiki huts outside of Margaritaville on the left, and the lifeguard towers, and they just
even
like they're on the beach.
sounds, we thought it would be kind of cool if they can, pipe in some sounds like it's birds.
The ocean.
We're looking
the-
and
The airport.
Yeah.
so, I think we'll have a great activation there, and it'll be a great experience to really help tell the story. And I do think people are going to be very, very excited about coming here. It's the first time here.
So us on the board,
I know there's a version where
person.
Yeah, Olivia, or it really, again, any of us will get to the right person with questions.
Yeah. We've talked about it in the past 2 meetings, so it's time for us to action it. So I will email Olivia today.
And you'll get more. I mean, I said one call to action here in terms of the tours. We're starting at the point where we're ready to start getting calls to action in terms of where we need specific help on
Okay.
things. We're just not quite there yet, but don't Don't get lazy yet, because it's gonna come. It's all gonna be like, all right, we've got 100 days. Here's what
Yeah.
the homework is. So,
Any questions for Tony before we? Oh, that BW, we're good? All right, thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Back. So when does the summer, I'm sorry, the winter campaign and the summer campaign, when's the dates? When does that change? What's?
We're transitioning, we're wrapping up winter in March, so March activation will be the last of the winter, and then we'll roll right into summer, which will be always on for the end of this.
Okay, in March. Thank you.
All right. Well,
Hi,
from this point,
everyone. It's lovely to see you again. It feels like yesterday and also like 6 months ago that we were here sort of telling you our plan for creating meaningful change. I think Chris is loading our deck. We talked a lot when we were here last about the important work we were doing back at the office from our discovery standpoint, really getting to know a lot about your destination, where you've been, so that we can know where to go. Today is work with the clicker, but today is really just giving you a summary. We have completed all the discovery that we could do on our own. So we want to quickly share some of our findings with you, but really talk about how we're moving towards our annual strategic plan, give you an update on the brand refresh and our sort of recommended path forward. In terms of our broad assignment, we're really trying to build awareness and market share for Visit Lauderdale. So we understand that we're a very solid domestic travel destination. We know that people who know us, love us, they return again. But we have our sights set on becoming a premier domestic and international travel destination. So yes, while we are loved by those who know us, there's still a heck of a lot of people who don't. And we really need to bridge the gap in our work. So we talked about, we really couldn't know where we were going until we know where we've been. We went through, sort of our pretty in-depth process. Like I said, we're through discovery. We've moved into strategy phase, and we're really excited about, what's to come. In terms of our homework, we looked at years worth of marketing materials from the organization. We did, an audit, a very extensive audit of the media across all of our segments. We've done some stakeholder workshops. If I could selfishly plug, there is a partner survey that was deployed at the luncheon and has since gone out in some industry newsletters. I believe it's going out again, right, Chanel?
Yes.
Yes. So be on the lookout for that. That is your chance to make your voice heard. We really need and want your valuable input. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be closed soon. So this is sort of your last chance to get your thoughts in. We've also done some secondary research looking at general travel trends, what's happening in the space. We did a deep dive in the competition. We had a little bit of a snag with our research that we talked about, but it has officially kicked off, and we're really excited about how that's going to help drive us forward. So I'm going to quickly take you through some insights across the following categories. Again, general travel trends, competitive set, some of the destination insights. That includes some of the valuable feedback that we heard from you guys last time, as well as sort of audience perspective. So part of our work is just constantly keeping a pulse on what's happening in the travel space. It's just sort of something that we're constantly looking at because we really want to understand what's top of mind for consumers and how we can, meet them and their needs. Really, since the pandemic, there has been this shift in travel priorities. It used to be about checking off those bucket list experiences and the places that you would go. And really it's now, and maybe I'm super swift to blame for this, it's really about fulfilling this desire for deep and meaningful experiences. I want to feel alive, whether that's at a concert, at a sporting event, seeing the eclipse for the first time. And so it really isn't enough just to sort of have those iconic things that we hang our hat on. It has to be about how people feel when they're in our destination. Also, since COVID, there's been some detractors for travel, and it's not necessarily changing people's desire or how they're budgeting for travel, but it is impacting how and where they decide to go. Currently, it's cost, safety, and convenience concerns that are really sort of shifting those travel making decisions. And really, they're just looking for simpler and more direct travel options, which often means closer to home. That need for restful and stress-free vacations is also driving, towards more niche travel experiences. So you're seeing things like slowcations, vacation just to rest or slow down, foodie experiences bubble up to the top. Yeah. And not surprising. We're still sort of in this remote culture, which is a little bit isolating. The world is pretty volatile right now. So it's sort of, and I feel this very real for myself, but travel is a way to have a shared experience with like-minded communities, and people are seeking that more than ever. So in summary, like, what does that mean for us? We have this tension that we need to sort of address, like, how do we become that simple choice for travelers, but also how do we make sure that we're showcasing those personally transformative experiences that we know the destination has to offer? We did your media competition. That's what this focused on, but we do a lot of work in travel and tourism. And so we are pretty well versed in the competitive space. And I think when we look at the Everyone Under the Sun campaign, it's great. It's strategically sound. It was progressive and new for its time. But what's happened over the last few years since it launched is that our competition is starting to adopt our messaging strategy. So what was once differentiated is now getting a little bit lost in the sea of sameness. This is a very high overview of sort of the messaging and the photography and things that are out there. And I think you can see, single image, block text, people of different shapes and sizes and colors. We did a fun exercise with the executive team. It's called Building an Aquarium. And we went, deeper into the creative across the competitive set. And really very few stand out. Miami has had some moments of maybe being bold. Aruba has maybe a distinct tone, but really there is no clear leader. And when we broaden our lens, we also evaluated their social media presence. We see a lot of the same thing, very similar content, approach, tone of voice across the competitive set in social. So some might be a little bit more active, some might have, higher sentiment, but really the Palm Beaches was the only one that stood out for sort of a distinct, both aesthetic and tone. But to be clear, there's still a very clear breakout opportunity in social media too. So I think, while we maybe are finding ourselves in that sea of sameness, which is not unique. I mean, I think that's pervasive in travel and tourism. But I don't think that there is a clear leader in our competitive set, which means that position is open for us to take the lead.
And I'm sorry, when you say leader, what do you mean by that? Just so I'm clear on.
Like, there isn't someone that owns, the space. There isn't someone that's outspending us, that, occupies a greater portion of the consumer's mind. We might see another depth of that when we get into the consumer research, but in terms of our direct competition, there isn't someone that's like the behemoth that we need to overtake. Yeah. Industry input. So this is a very high-level summary of the really valuable input that we heard from you guys and the executive team. And I think there was a lot of parity between the two conversations. And I think that you all really had a good sense of self-awareness for where we're winning, what are some challenges that we face. And I think understanding what those are right out of the gate is really going to help us move forward and make sure that we're finding the solutions that address them. So we heard from you all that diversity, which we absolutely have in spades, is a strength, but it's also a weakness, right? So we have a lot of people, a lot of diverse people, a lot of diverse experiences, but somehow along the way that the communication of that diversity is potentially diluting our message. We're sort of all things to all people. We talked about the unique story that we can tell when we were sort of like, who do we want to be when we grow up, right? And that's part of the work that we're here to do, is putting a finer point on that to understand where can we own and have more greater distinction and greater focus. We know that we can't and don't want to lose welcoming. It's inherently in who we are. You heard at the top that travelers are looking to feel or to experience this community where they feel like themselves, or where they can have like-minded experiences. But I think when we look at taking you all from solid to premier, this can be part of our story, but it can't be, just our story. And lastly, this was kind of shocking to me as someone who grew up in Florida, but we're a little bit lost in South Florida, and quite literally people don't necessarily know where we are. And so how do we address that? From a destination insight, again, this came from our conversation with you. This has come from our, immersion as we've become more and more familiar with the brand. And I think, the takeaway here is there's a lot of great stories to tell. So yes, we are the beach. That's a large portion of why people come here. But I don't think that we're getting the credit for those unique beach communities and how are our beaches different and why should you choose them? But we're also so much more than the beach, like the water culture, just like that really stuck out to us. And that's something that we absolutely experience, whether it's the diving, the yachting, or even just the water taxi. This year-round water culture is a real selling point. Also talked about the unique and differentiating vibe, and you can kind of feel that change maybe as you go from one of the municipalities to the other. But I think a lot of our conversation was actually about how we're not Miami versus what we are instead. And so making sure that when we define our unique and differentiating vibe, that it's, truly ownable to us and it doesn't really matter about the Miamis or others. And then the 31 municipalities is certainly something that's unlike any other destination. And I think that has both maybe a pro and a con with it too. On the pro side, there's choice and we have an abundance of choice. But again, from a cons is that being mindful of that all things to all people or diluting our message by trying to communicate too much. And lastly, inclusive and welcoming from day one. Again, we're not going to depart from being an inclusive destination. So in summary, we were sort of laying out your SWOT analysis. Like we have a great general understanding of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and some of the threats. But with our inability to conduct the consumer research that we were hoping to kick off a little bit sooner, we recognize that we had a big blind spot. From an audience perspective, we don't really understand on a deeper level what they think of us and what's important to them. Like what space do we currently occupy in their mind? Why aren't they choosing us? And without understanding that, it's really hard for us to focus our story and positioning in a way that's going to be meaningful and actionable to them. So we've already just run through all of the amazing stories that we can tell, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but to elevate the destination, we really do need to have that deeper understanding. And so we're excited that research has kicked off. But from a takeaway perspective,
How are you doing that research?
it is, there's a deep methodology to it, but it's qualitative. It's going to have over 2,000 different, have visited the destination, haven't visited the destination, have visited Florida, but not Greater Fort Lauderdale. And it's going to measure everything from awareness to perception against certain attributes, where we stand with the competitive set. Again, why they're not choosing us, which sometimes that's even more valuable than why they are. So we're excited about that. But in summary, from a general travel trends, we know that people are looking for more immersive and meaningful experiences. From a competitive standpoint, we're a little bit lost at the moment. From the destination insights, I think the good news is we do have those immersive and meaningful experiences that they're looking for. We just need to package them in a different way. And then actively filling that gap in terms of understanding our audience better.
When do you plan on having the research back?
We just kicked off survey development, so we'll be taking Dr. Ted and the marketing team through it. And one of the reasons we picked the partner that we did was their ability to do it with pace. So we should have it back by the end of March.
Okay, so Tony, is it possible to look at that research and find out, and once we get some data on what people are looking for, to put it in the IPW program? Like I don't see a lot of immersive experience being explained at IPW, is there, or do we lean into wellness? Because that's a huge thing, that kind of thing. So we resonate with what the travelers want.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we want to show off stuff that they're actually going to go home and talk about.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but we know a lot of what that is already. I mean, but I'm sure there'll be some takeaways that we can take and put in that.
And I have another question. So the data that we're doing about our destination, are we doing any research on Miami and Palm Beach? Because as you said, people understand what they're getting into when they go there or what their expectation is, and we are not there yet. Okay. So are we kind of understanding what they think so we can clearly define what we are?
I think it's a fair question. I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't want to speak incorrectly. There is finite time we have within this study to gather a lot of data that we want. So I think we'll be partnering with Ted and the marketing team to understand like what is the best and most impactful. I think, yes, understanding where you occupy versus them is top of our list. Depending on how many things we're trying to measure, it might require a secondary study or something, but we're still early in the questionnaire development and we're very ambitious.
Because are you able to email this to us? Can we have this?
Sure.
Because as you know, every opportunity or threat tied into branding and who we are. Okay. And we've all been saying that we are so vanilla that we're nothing, right? Well, I said that. But I think we need to understand that, and that's going to drive a lot of where we go with this.
Mhm. Yeah, it was sort of like going through this and looking at it, like I can kind of understand where we should go, but it's too big of a blind spot to ignore.
It's amazing. I ask people, well, why'd you go to Palm Beach? They can answer like that, why they went to Palm Beach. Why did they go to Miami? Because they answered because it's here. They're like, oh, we just heard about it. They're not I came for this, or I heard about this, right? So.
When you're talking about travel trends, it's kind of interesting because people want easy now, close to home, and the slow thing you talked about, like
Location.
location. Okay, well, I want slow, but so we have a lot of that already, guys. I think that we need to emphasize that. I mean, we're so close to the airport. I mean, even when we talked about our business improvement district on the beach, I mean, you're staying at the beach, but you're, 5 minutes from downtown and what the action is, right? But you can go to the beach, go to a spa, and then if you want to be 5 minutes away from the downtown experience, right? I don't think we emphasize that enough, okay? And even though we all have our opinion about the airport, listen, you get in there, you can be in your hotel, depending on traffic, within 10 minutes, right? Or the port. So I think that's part of what people are looking for, is that easy thing, right? From what you're saying.
There's so many things that are outside of their control, right?
That's right.
Airline delays.
Yeah, all
or
that stuff.
cancellations.
Yeah. And then when you think about the slow piece of it, people, particularly right now, guys, I don't know about you, but I just need to get unstressed. It's like, every day it's like, how much more can you throw at me personally, right? So I think we also, Tim talks about the vanilla, but we also need to be cognizant of people just want to chill. Okay, so they have that choice, right? So I think that because I'm looking at that trend thing you talked about, and how do we incorporate in, because we're already that. No, we really are.
Right. That is the silver lining.
Yeah.
We don't have to become something that we're not.
Yeah.
We have it. We just need to understand exactly what they're looking for so that we can tell a story that's going to be meaningful and action.
We can Booking did an amazing job with their current marketing with Booking.com that came out in the Super Bowl. They had something for everyone, which is us as well, but theirs was on a different level, really identifying, you don't want this, you have that. You don't want that, you have this. So yes, I think you can present on a multiple level through the same audience that has different needs. That's sort of, I think, magical if you can get there.
One interesting place it is, you're looking for data. So we talked a little this morning. You can get data.
But can you talk a little louder, please?
We can get data off the website now. Who's looking, where are they looking at, where are they going, all that pretty quickly. While we're waiting on the other data in March to say, when people come to our website, what is their interest? What are they going to? That data we can get from our website agent.
Yeah, I think the arriving at our website, the 75% or 77% that, once you've been here, I think we're talking about a much broader audience that's may or may not be choosing us, may or may not know where we are on the map, may or may not think we're one thing that we're
But it's
not.
interesting to know how much time people are spending on the website,
Mhm.
where they're spending it, right?
Absolutely.
Because, we could. That's a data point out that we can get quickly and be ready to present next time or even
Yep.
earlier. I think why I'm on the floor for a moment, sorry, but I think like all this stuff is really, really good and I like where things are going and stuff. But I want to kind of understand what winning looks like to the back half of this year. And us in hotels, we're analyzed on every metric there possibly is. I can tell you how much a chair at my pool produces in revenue, on F&B in a month's time. So, going back to the STAR data and stuff like that, when we look at all this, putting it together, are we looking to improve RGI by 2 points over the year? What are we looking to do? Because we just did heads and beds just a moment ago. And the other piece is that you're saying heads and beds, which I agree in because that brings revenue. And you're saying that we have leadership opportunity in a destination at this point. And so we have opportunity in front of us. We're chasing down heads and beds. What's winning look like? So that we're going to look at every time we come in here and say, here's where we are. Now, there's some great data on the airport. There's things that are growing and growing and growing. But back to the heads and beds piece, what do we look at that says it? So, I'm sure we're sitting here now and someone's sitting in Tampa and someone's sitting in Jacksonville and someone's sitting in Orlando and they're trying to do the same thing and pull those people into their destinations, right? What's winning? So do we look at, who is our STAR data? And I'm not putting this on you, sorry. Who is our STAR data that we're saying, here are the cities that we're really up against over the next couple of years with a new convention center coming in, 1,200 plus room nights coming in, 1,200 room nights coming in the inventory. If we're running flat, we're not doing well, right? So we've got to bring in new business for that. The thing I'm worried about is the 1,200 room nights is the share shifting. I don't want a share shift. I want new business coming in.
Nobody wants.
We start share shifting and
It's like shift again.
So what does that look? Is there going to be a STAR data to say, hey, over this quarter, we improved by against these destinations, we improved by these many points, so we improved by this. How do we find that out?
Can we charge you all as our advisory council to tell us what?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I think it's important that what we are measuring as a group individually measures up against what they're shooting for, right? Meaning, Ted did an unbelievable job with a data dashboard. Do we want to, for the destination, what's most important? Is it ADR? Is it occupancy? How do we rank that? Okay. What moves the needle for, what are you measured on? Your people coming to town? It's ADR. It's
RGI.
It's RevPAR.
Okay. So is that okay? So
And compared to our comp set.
okay, so what's winning when your directors come in and say, okay, this is good. We expect 3 to 5, 10% growth. What is that? And then maybe we try to map it against us. So we're all talking the same language, right? I think that's what's
For you though, right? As a restaurant.
see, I have no vision like the hotels, right? My reservations are a week out, a month out, so we measure capacity in the market and we understand what might translate to, restaurant seats. So that's how we do it. But I think since we are funded with heads and beds, I think it's important to tie ADR, RevPAR, occupancy, because that all dictates heads and beds and we all rise together. So that's what I think it should be.
Yeah, and it's not the heads and beds, it's the revenue.
Right.
Because you could put heads and beds at $1 a night.
Right. But in regards to the events and things,
Right.
they're allocated on what they do.
Sure. We're going to come up with, sorry.
That's okay. Well, I think the longer term thing though is when you're looking at this qualitative data, you're looking at what is that larger perception of the destination, not just, in Florida, but across the country and globally. And how do we elevate that? And that is, really going to be tracked qualitatively, but we hope that it has the end result of putting heads in beds, putting people in restaurants. So it's sort of that we're needing to better define that long-term vision and create greater brand awareness and agreement on what that brand is. And then,
Speak to that actually about
Yeah.
the funnel and how we've really focused on awareness up until this point, and now we're going a little deeper into the funnel, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think the exciting thing about the research is that it does give us a baseline and a benchmark. Where do we sit from an awareness, aided, unaided? Where do we sit perception against certain attributes? And then we do have a conversation to be had as a group, like what is most important to us? Do we want to move the needle on just awareness? Do we want to be known for something specifically? So I think at the very least, it's going to give us a baseline that we can measure against moving forward.
Folks, this is great work, okay? And obviously you're going the right direction and however you guys, we're gonna measure it, right? I think here's the thing I'm most concerned about right now is summer. Okay? Because for the past 3 years it's been, and now looking into this year, that's what everyone's complaining about, guys. And so it's, I mean, listen, we're gonna be doing great during the winter season. Now, if we go up a couple points or whatever it is, and the rooms are, that's all, but going in the right direction, right? Like Ted said, we're talking about season now. I'm happy, right? So we really have to start dealing creatively and in some other ways with, otherwise we're going to lose the edge because then we lose the business over the summertime and you guys are complaining. Okay. And we're all complaining. And I don't see anything yet. Okay. That's going to move the needle on that. And by the way, I love ice cream. So that's.
well,
So I mean, that your campaigns are going to be wonderful and they're going to be great, right? But I don't know that that's going to do it, folks. Okay. So listen, I don't want another epidemic because that's when we had a great summer here. We don't want to do that. Okay. So that's not a good idea. But it just seems that that's what I hear from the restaurants and from the hotels. It's all about summer, summer, summer.
If we get our identity down, Ina, this top of funnel, 12 months a year, Fort Lauderdale should be successful, right?
Okay.
And this is that even we all work, some of us work for brands, some of us work have independent businesses. Our consumer looks destination first and brand second, right? If from people way outside of Fort Lauderdale, that's what we're trying to do, right? So I believe solving summer in the state of Florida, I grew up here, it's impossible. Let's all call a spade a spade. If we can do it the best we can, if this worked, this will last us for eternity. And January will feel like June and December will feel like August. And this is what I think we have to believe in and let us support you in the field of how that works. Because this is, all of our, we have tons of data. We're lost in data. So if you ever need data, just ask the hoteliers here because our data just tells us constantly destination first, everything else second, right? So I think we'll get there. But the destination is first and everything else falls into play.
I think the hurricane news is scaring people from the summer coming here during the summer. That's really made an impact on the occupancy during the summer.
Yeah.
Did I hear, just another question, did I hear that we're losing flights in Fort Lauderdale Airport? Are less and less flights coming here?
Well, again, on my notes was, I really want to get someone from the airport.
Talked about that.
On this board.
Because if we're losing flights, no matter, what we want to do here, occupancy, if we don't have the flights coming in here, we're not going to
One
business.
give us an update, somebody next one.
Yeah, I was also going to mention, Jim, Southwest, some of their international flights to Orlando, all right? We all know that Spirit's going through its own issues, but that vacuum will create opportunities for other airlines and for legacy airlines to increase their loads. So I wouldn't be concerned about flights. We have the same number of flights. They've already picked up other airlines and other routes from current airlines to fill the Southwest vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, and they're filling it. So that's not.
Good to hear.
It's certainly a growing pain issue, but it's not something that you need to dwell on because the number of flights aren't going to fall off.
Good.
And there's room on the flights that are out there. That's the issue. But say if we were chock-a-block full on those flights, then, they would bring stuff in, but they're not full. So the passenger number will be boosted by the fact that we have good subsistence service. And the times we really desperately want people to come here, you can find a spot. If you come here, it's about generating demand, not about being able to fulfill it from an airline perspective.
I have just a couple slides left and then quickly wrap up because what's gonna happen this summer. Everybody wants to know. So we did decide as a team alongside the executive team that it is important to prioritize that consumer research for, just to, again, figure that life. But, so that means the brand refresh is shifting to, later this year in line with our major campaigns. But also, we just want to make sure that you guys are clear that taking the time to do the data-driven approach doesn't mean that we're not also going to realize bold activity in the market. And we're absolutely going to be doing that over the same period. If you remember our presentation, or even Stacy had the beautiful full funnel approach slide at the marketing luncheon, we flagged that there was an immediate opportunity to take a more full funnel approach. And we're going to do that for our summer consumer media. We had in the past a very heavy upper funnel. So we were feeding awareness, but sort of ignoring, that consideration down to intent. And so from an upper funnel standpoint, we're going to leverage some big brand moments and partners to drive greater awareness. So that's things like the IndyCar or the Michelin announcement, Baskin Robbins. But we're also going to put a higher allocation of our dollars into that mid to lower funnel. That, those are people who are actively raising their hand, whether that's a website visit or whatever, saying, I am showing intent to travel, and we want to make sure that they come here. So having the steady, always on support throughout the year, leveraging those key partnerships at critical moments, re-engaging through sort of strategic retargeting, and honing our creative strategy. It was a little bit of a one-off, and just having that aligned to those more moments that matter is going to help us have a really strong omnipresence. We're incredibly excited for you all about the Michelin announcement. That is huge. And I think one of the first things that Ted told us when we were onboarding was that, like, a really fascinating stat about the culinary diversity. And we saw, right, that foodie experiences are driving travel. So we want to build off of that announcement, and we're going to do so with a dedicated culinary campaign where we're actually leveraging custom content partners. So I think it's one thing to, as a destination, to say, like, we're for foodies, but for the foodies to tell you that this is a foodie destination. I think the halo of Michelin and places like our publishers like Food and Wine and Bon Appetit, having them help tell our untold and culinary story. We're really excited about that. So this sort of lays it all out there. We have a really bold winter campaign in the market. We're seeing really strong performance so far. We've got important sports sponsorships out there, Michelin, really just having that omnipresent approach, making sure that we're doing the full funnel versus only focusing up here, only focusing down there, really just means that we're going to be meeting potential travelers at all phases of their journey. And we're excited to show, months from now, the return on that strategy. That's it. That's it from me. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any?
I just, before we wrap the marketing portion, I don't know if this is for Spark or for us, but obviously about 10, 12 days ago, Miami launched the Breaking Up with Spring Break, right? So have there been conversations how we're combating that, or what we're expecting for spring break this year?
There's actually a meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
On with the major partners at Behemoth about spring break. Now, the approach we took last year was more of a positive approach rather than don't come here, which is what Miami did and what they're continuing to do. We're not going in that direction when I'm seeing right now. Okay.
Who's the planning?
What?
There's no planning on it.
No. And so it's from what I'm seeing and hearing now. I'll know more tomorrow when we have this meeting with the police and blah, blah, blah. And last time the mayor here did a press conference that was really upbeat. It was very different from what Miami was doing. And we didn't have any major problems. We're not going to get rid of spring break, guys. That's not the way this destination is going. It was years ago, but it seems to be more well-rounded now. So I think we'll know more. Now, if you let me know your concerns right now, I can bring them up when we have our meeting. Okay. And I'm sure where's Jim?
We're
representation?
I'm sorry?
Does the CVB have representation at that meeting?
I don't know. I mean, the city of Fort
Sorry, is
Lauderdale.
it a marketing meeting
right?
or is it a safety?
It's a safety post. It's
Tim, yesterday there was a similar meeting,
Yeah.
the downtown venues, primarily Himmershey
Yes.
Street, which is kind of its own animal.
Right.
But police, fire, parks and rec, all the different city departments discussed what their operational plans are, enhanced services, regular cleaning daily, checkpoints, ID,
the beach.
for street patrol, particularly on Himmershey and 2th Street, some changes to the garage operations. So they just highlighted some of those main points, and I think that that's their intent to do.
Tomorrow it's at 1:30 at
Yeah.
BMR. It's the same kind of safety meeting. But again, the mayor, if you took a look at the mayor's, what he did last year, the press conference, it was vanilla. It was kind of like, here's what we are, and it kind of was upbeat.
And it was a reaction to the Miami.
Yes.
What-
Standpoint, almost a recruitment standpoint.
Right. It was.
Yeah.
Young professionals for police officer, welcome. This is a community you could make permanent your home.
And they actually did get a lot of recruits, from what they did last year. But anyway, that's not our business.
No.
So I meant from like a marketing and business lens, like we are welcoming spring break and business into our
So,
destination.
so I don't think we shout about it.
Okay,
Okay.
more like a whisper.
We whisper that it's happening because sometimes it's counter to the clientele that we really want here. And we try to contain it to the 4 blocks on A1A and downtown Himmershey district. That's really the hot spots for spring break. And I think the police are focused on managing those areas. And we just, hope that we don't have any national televised media that is in counter to what our message is. But right, that's
And the problem in the
One for all.
past has come, quite frankly, from the local students.
Yeah.
They're the ones that create the problem. Now, tomorrow with the Beach Council, unfortunately, they changed the date of the Beach Council to tomorrow at the same time as the Tourist Development Council meeting. But Jim is the chair of the Beach Council now, and we do have the chief of police coming to that meeting. So we'll also get that feedback too, but he'll also obviously be there when we have our meeting tomorrow, and whatever meeting it is. So, but if you let me know what your concerns are now, particularly if you're on the beach, I'll make sure they're translated to when we have our meeting tomorrow. Okay, since I'll be there.
I don't know if anybody knows this, but we're all on WhatsApp along the beach. The police are involved. Anything happens on the beach, WhatsApp, we get alert right away, whether it's the bridge on 17th Street or there's a problem on the beach or, a shooting or anything like that happened a couple weeks ago. We all get notified and
how do you get on that? What's that?
I don't know exactly,
You invite me into that chat? Thank you.
but we're right on top. The police are
Yeah, that's
is
great.
right on top of it. Everybody, everybody's involved.
And again, I think it's really important that we communicate with the police if we're seeing anything, especially during spring break, right? And so just to make sure it doesn't get out of hand.
By the way, it's not only spring break, it's Memorial Day weekend. Okay, and what they're doing this year, which they didn't do last year, is they're programming that Monday, right? Monday,
Sunday.
because that's when the game, whatever it was, it didn't go well, but we squashed it right away. Okay, there was a problem out there, but the police did an amazing job squashing it immediately. So, so it's not just spring break time frame, those times a year that we have to be concerned about, but I think they do a really good job. And over the years, they, continue to deal with it. They know when the colleges are breaking, guys. Okay. And they know, and they monitor through social media what's going on. But if you hear anything, say something. That's now really back to this thing, because they can close it down right away. They can close down the bridges, okay, if there's a problem on the beach. So I think that for those of us that are out there and live out there, or hotels out there, if you got problems, you need to communicate right away, okay? And so we'll find out and let you all know what app or number to call if there is a problem, okay? So they know about it right away.
Any other comments, questions? All right, thank you very much. Right, so we'll go around to the committee here and give comments about what you're seeing and things like that, so we can get some feedback to the team here.
Can I
Again,
ask you to just say your name and where you're from so we can capture it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Tim Petrillo, the restaurant people. I think it's really important that we do have information from the airport, what they're seeing. The expansion is kicked off, you know, so there's some really good things happening at the airport. And I think we all should be aware of that, and the seaport as well. What's interesting is we talked about these events and what they do for a 2 to 3 night stay. I'd be interested to see what we map against the cruise industry, where we don't have to invest any dollars, and see how that lifts our destination as well. I know that you have that data too, right?
Yeah, I need to get the time to do it. And again, if there's a prioritization.
No.
Look at that.
That could
I've got it all mapped out, so I can do whatever needs to be done.
Again, like what was mentioned here today, we are concerned about summer. Obviously, you know, there's always the fear of hurricanes and whatnot. So we unlike hotels, we don't really have a lot of vision into what we're seeing in the summertime. So I'm curious to hear what you guys are doing. Again, historically, the last month, I think that we've seen great compression in the market. I think there's a lot of people here. We had great turnouts for our events. We are up over last year from volume of guest counts. I take off we don't measure sales growth anymore. We measure guest counts because everyone's raising prices and whatnot. So we are seeing a positive trend in guest counts. We had a great food and wine festival. I think that was a good thing for our destination. We want to continue to do things like that because, as the data says, people like to travel for culinary, right? I went to your event there. It was great. I think it's great for the city, and it continues to grow. I hope the CVB is happy with it so far. Okay, good. All right. That's all I have.
I'm involved with all of you guys. So on some level, so it's, you know, what I said, what I heard, you know, everyone seems to be happy right now. Everyone's concerned about summer, and I think that's what we have to continue to work on. And I think that as a destination, we're remarkable. I mean, there really is something, not only everyone under the sun, but there's something for everyone. And I think somehow tying those two things together, marrying everyone under the sun with everything under the sun, you can do anything here, you know. And I think, you know, the whole dive water experience, like what you're featuring during IPW, we are so unique in that area. I don't think people understand that what we offer in terms of the water, the fishing, the boating, and, you know, it's not just the boat show, guys. You can just take a boat out and have a great experience in the intercoastal. So I think we need to upgrade a lot of that stuff. I think we need to focus more on that, quite frankly. So it's culinary and, you know, all that stuff. They're kind of niche things, but they all make us who we are. So where can you go where you can have all that experience? So it's great. And by the way, I think one of the things to watch out for, guys, I don't know if you tried to get down on 17th Street last weekend. It was impossible. Okay. Now, I know there were 6 cruise ships in, but I think there must have been some event at the convention center. And so I think there's got to be a better signage there so that when people are coming here and all of a sudden they've got all this horrible traffic or they're trying to get back to their planes, that there's a problem. So I think we need to do a better job of alerting people to those kind of things so that the concierges, the hotels can say, listen, hey, this is what's going on. It's a great event, but, you know, plan to get to your hotel, the airport a little earlier. So they're not left with that bad taste in their mouth. You know, listen, the first thing they come here is they get off a plane. And then the second thing is they have to get back on that plane.
And to that point, I think it would be wise of us to communicate with the city, all the municipalities about IPW, and see if we can make sure that they try to coordinate some of the construction on, because it can be a nightmare. It could take an hour to get to you guys on a bus, right? So we want to make sure that's as easy as possible. So.
Good morning. I think it's still good morning, everyone. So one of the things that I wanted to ask, Catherine Beja McLennan, Area Director of Sales and Marketing for Hyatt Hotels in Fort Lauderdale. One of the things that I wanted to ask the marketing team is benchmarks. I know that we are going into a direction of discovery of where we want to be, who we want to be, and so on and so forth. But I think, to your point, what are our benchmarks? Hotels are benchmarked based on our RGI, star performance, and so on and so forth. How we're doing against our competitors. But we also have benchmarks when it comes to marketing and e-commerce. So have we established those? Are we going to establish those?
Yeah, as we continue to do the research, we'll be benchmarking against the findings and go in that direction. So we definitely are. We look at our visitation to our website, we look at TDT numbers. So there are a number of benchmarks that we have in our strategic plan that we compare against, but we're definitely looking for more opportunities.
Okay. And then the other thing is, I think it's one of the newest events is Ignite that's in the city. I think that was part of the compression because that kind of launched. And I think more awareness of events like that is something that, and I think a more broad awareness, because honestly, I saw it in our local channels, but I don't know how far out that event was promoted.
So I agree with you 100%. I personally think that we should try to tie the Food and Wine Festival week up against the Art Week and combine the two, because we can do multiple events with each other. And I think that would be, listen, Basel has incredible compression in the Miami market. I mean, since that event has taken over the whole community, and it provides, listen, it's the best week in Miami. Of all the weeks, it is absolutely the best week from ADR, from guests. So if we can grow that a fraction of that, we'd be very happy.
We did work hand in hand with the Food and Wine Festival and Ignite to promote them. So you can certainly start, fielding those types of requests.
Hi, everyone. Jenna Borgini, Four Seasons, Fort Lauderdale. I just thought I'd share with the table today that we're very lucky our budgets are approved. Are your budgets approved, hotel people? Yeah. And in our hotel budget this year is our own agency. So that's a huge cost, hard cost to a lot of hotels. So some of them have it, some of them don't. And they've been on board with us for about 90 days, and their only priority is destination for us. It's not to promote a Valentine's Day cocktail or something like that, but it's super high level. So I'll just share things that we've accomplished so far that affects the destination. So in the next 90 days, we will be on Kelly and Mark. Love that show. We're giving away a 7-night stay to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Four Seasons. So we're making sure it's a 7-night stay, all inclusive. So getting that their goal is just national big picture. And then they just got us the World Report went out. So we were able to achieve the #1 hotel here in Fort Lauderdale, number 13 in the whole state. So we're looking for big splashy media that can help all of us. And then their third thing that's #1 high priority on our list is we as a city try to operate spring break. We as a hotel have to grow spring break. This is a super high demand date period for us. This is business for us. It's about getting the right business, not all the business. So we did a spring break glow up campaign. It's kind of on the when you grow up, what do you want to be? So we're doing the same thing and trying to target all of these markets. So I'll continue to update you as we go. And then we'll have some more chef collabs for spring break. Sunny's Miami and Chef Brandon will be together. Then obviously we're playing an integral role in the Michelin experiences. Whatever we can do, whatever you want, we will help and support. So thanks.
Chris Bielski, Harbor Beach Resort. We just completed our renovation at the resort. So we completed all our guest rooms, all of our meeting space. Sea level restaurant was renovated. So we're all excited that we're moving forward. We're still doing work on the outside of the building with the facade and painting, and that's going to continue for the next couple of months. So happy about that. In the short term, our March demand is down and our April demand is up. Kind of a flip from, I think Easter has a little bit to do with it, but our revenue person who also does revenue for a Miami hotels is seeing the same thing down there as well. So just FYI, we just did complete a promotion up in Minneapolis with one of the major TV stations where we did a trip giveaway, and it aired like last week and the week before. So it's pretty exciting because I was up there last week and it was 12 degrees. So it's a lot of fun. So and then we still have summer looking at summer. We still do need some group business. So
Group.
Yeah, we're working on pushing more business there. It's too early in the year to tell you anything else.
Welcome to summer. Michael Cook, Margaritaville. So a couple events that we do have coming up is Mother Ocean Day. So very environmental type of a day on April 26th. Four Oceans, DJ, music, everything there at on Johnson Street. So it'll be highly activated with a lot of vendors and things there. And then Saber SoFlo, which fourth year? I think it's fourth year, right? So March 29th and 30th, I think are the dates, right? So I had to move those around to make sure we got the right dates for that. That'll be on the beach just south of us. So we're looking forward to the return of that. I'm hearing vendors and things too as well, especially the F&B component. So that should be exciting. And then our Landshark restaurant, we did reopen in December. We were closed for renovation on that. And it looks great. And again, I think it's one of the best places to have a nice cold beverage and look over the beach and everything and have a nice meal too as well. So please come join us and as anyone down in Hollywood come down and see us. And let's see, I had one more thing. Oh, on the Starling, I mean, we could quickly, I'm sorry to jump in, we could quickly find a couple of destinations. I mean, we did this years ago and we would compare ourselves to Tampa. I mean, that's something that could be done.
I think that should be done. We should identify markets that we think we are the most competitive and measure against what we're doing versus they're doing. Absolutely. I mean, that's no brainer.
I have data for hotel class for Miami and Tampa. So down basically based on the class of hotel. So it's, I think I've got about a year of that data now, so we can start doing comparisons of
So I think what we need to look at though is who, we just pick two. And I think we need to look at this new convention center coming up. You know what I mean? Like what are our three or four destinations we're really comparing ourselves?
Exactly. And I would like to
next
use
couple of years.
I'd like to use historical data from the people who are booking these events of who we lost to and why, and who's the most common we're losing to see what they're doing and measure them, right? I mean, but now we're moving into a different kind of event and guest for this convention center. So who are we comparing ourselves to now?
So we probably need to pick those destinations that are similar. But I'm sure when we were looking to build this 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or something, we did those comparisons and who we were looking to compete against in those times. Where were we going to pull business from? So maybe go back to that, but draw those destinations, whether it's Florida or maybe it was, we could have been up against Austin at that point in time. What's Austin doing? What's
Nashville?
All those second, third tier cities that are growing so much. So I think we need to come up with that concept sooner than later. I don't know who or what, but we need to find some type of either a committee on it or something that says, here's the 5, let's compare ourselves to this. And then what's the growth on that?
Do we have that or do we?
I would,
Tony, we may have that already.
core competitive.
We have, yeah, I mean, we know it based on these groups.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, show that, yeah.
And what is it?
All right.
I'm Drew, Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance. Business climate still looks good. Our unemployment rate is 2.9%, which is about as low as you ever want to really get. One of the things that we're really proud of, Area Development Magazine is the trade magazine really that site consultants use and corporate decision makers on where they're going to locate businesses. And they've just, we were number 2, South Florida region was number 2 last year in rankings of the best place for business behind Salt Lake City area. This year they broke and that was for the large MSAs, the really big ones. This year they broke it down to look at the metropolitan division areas. So Miami is a metropolitan division. We are, Palm Beach is. So what you get is that big MSA broken into big cities, like Dallas would be one and Fort Worth would be one as an example too. So out of the 53 metropolitan divisions in the country, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, and Broward were 1, 2, and 3 for the best place for business to be of all the 53 metropolitan divisions in the country, which is really strong according to that national ranking. One of the things we're watching really closely is the out-migration of talent, because in the 21 to 29-year-old range, they're leaving more than they're coming right now. And that's a big concern because that's the workforce that you pull from and really want, especially in the professional area. The main problem has been the cost of being here. So hopefully that's leveling off now where it's not really in the news as really going up every month. And we'll be able to turn that around. one of the advantages we see with spring break and spring break season is that we use that as a way to market to talent. So while they're here, we advertise on social media and reach out to the beaches, and we're close to the beaches in the areas where the visiting schools will be. We know when universities are here, what time, as all of you do, what month they're here and what the strength of advertising is. So we're going to be doing that starting in March. We've also got an interesting deal with University of Florida in that they've reached out to us. We did this with Rochester Institute. They've reached out to us and say their placement office said, we'd like to bring 40 or 50 of our graduates who are from the South Florida area, from Broward County, down for a 3-day visit where they can meet with companies and really talk about what are the opportunities in the area for our talent that's coming out of UF. So we'll be doing that in the next few weeks, and we'll continue to do that as our talent attraction. And we always advertise nationwide for talent as well. So that's where we stand right now with things.
Hi, everybody. Elaine Fitzgerald, representing Small Inns in Pompano Beach. We had some interesting flip-flops of numbers for our season this year. Usually, this year, March sold out faster than January or February, and usually it's the last one. So that was kind of interesting. Our January was not as good as previous years. It's fine. We're working really hard on getting summer business. So we're concentrating a lot on our social media and blogs, and the numbers are really turning around for us. We've really had some unprecedented bookings already for next winter this early. Usually it's our current guests who book for next year this early, but these are strangers booking this early for next year, and we like that. For the last 3 months, I've been house hunting for single family homes, and I noticed something that was really, I don't know if it's a coincidence or something, but to take note, it just seemed like 7 out of 10 single family homes we were looking at, and we've looked at lots and lots of them in 3 months, were Airbnbs all for sale. We have tens of thousands of Airbnbs in Broward County, South Florida. And I don't know if this is a trend. They do represent a lot of draw of tourists to the area. They're their own category. So I haven't done any studies, but it might be interesting to find out if there is a shift in the dynamics, being more business for hotels. I don't know. And lastly, up in Pompano Beach, they unveiled the final master plan for our very unique botanical garden that's planned. It won't be ready for a couple of years, but it has 5 different sensory gardens. It has a historic hotel. It has a pavilion. It has event space. But the concept of this particular botanical garden is rather unprecedented for gardens around the country. So we're very excited about the final concept for it and getting it going.
I'm Vaughn Freeman. I'm corporate marketing and productions for Odyssey Communications, 245 radio stations nationwide. And we just announced today, Buckets and Bets, we teamed up with the Hard Rock Bet app to do a NCAA party on March 20th and 23rd at the Hard Rock. We are doing national sweepstakes for almost $500 million. We'll get a $500 million media impressions. Chicago, New York, Philly, DC, Richmond. We're going to be flying people and doing sweepstakes in all those markets. Number one sports properties down for sports betting. So that is on March 20th and 23rd at the Hard Rock. The other thing I wanted to mention is we teamed up with Tortuga, with Live Nation and Chris Stacy, and we're doing a national sweepstakes and a pre-party at the Hard Rock. We're doing sweepstakes in 20 different markets at our 20 different number one country radio stations nationwide, based out in Nashville. And we're going to be flying people in for Tortuga and promoting and being backstage and doing a bunch of content, pushing out social media, have our influencers. Katie Neal is our midday host, and she's on 20 of the top number one country stations. So we're really knocking it out of the park with Live Nation and Tortuga. I did want to mention for summer, if you want another Taylor Swift deal, Post Malone's coming to the Hard Rock on June 8th. And it might be Jelly Roll and Post Malone. So that's another weekend to put on your calendar and do some Post Malone.
Yeah.
Posty.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Matt from the Broward Center. Just two really quick topics. Wanted to mention the data and then like the summertime thing, because we have that same issue in the entertainment business, at least for us. On the data side, I want to get back together with the folks in the office that, spend all their time on that. We're wrapping up a economic impact study with the Broadway League. Broadway League is a New York trade organization that kind of oversees Broadway, not just in New York City, but touring Broadway on the road. And I'd say the last 18 months, we've been working on an economic impact study for us here in Fort Lauderdale and what all the Broadway, we do 14, 15 weeks of Broadway a year. It's probably 45% of our calendar. So it's a big part of our activity. But they're analyzing what the local impact, economic impact is on Broadway and what it means nationally as well. So I want to bring that data to you and see if it's helpful in any way in terms of, what's going on and maybe even identify what's happening in terms of Broadway and your properties and if there's an opportunity to do more there. So once I get that data together, I'll bring that to the group. And from a summertime point of view, we have the same issue because, really the craziest time for us is about November through April. And it's primarily driven not just from the consumer point of view, but from the artists, the acts, and the shows. Like they all want to be here at that time of the year. They don't want to be here in the summertime. We have Lion King in for the entire month of March. I had a security call with them yesterday with everybody on there that's worried about safety and security. The very first question on the call was, how's the weather? Because they can't seem to get here. I'm like, it's mild 79. And then they yell at me, calling that mild and everything. But so we're always up against, everyone wants to be here at that concentrated point of view time frame. And we try to steer people into summertime that have the most local appeal. So we look for the artists and the acts and the bands and the shows that really have the most local point of view, because the rest of the year, we're driving 35+% from out of market. And a big chunk of that is New York and New Jersey and the 5 boroughs. So we take that summertime opportunity to really drill into the local community more so than normal to find the acts that we know locally will have the most appeal. And we try to present that as a gift to our locals. It's easier to come to a show. Traffic is lighter. Come on out. It's not as crowded and the air conditioning is really good. Anyway, that's just our approach on how we kind of carve up the year and focus on summertime.
Great. Hi, everyone. Jenny Morejon, Fort Lauderdale Downtown Development Authority. Just a quick note on some of our development trends. Apartment construction, for the most part, has hit a bit of a trough or at least a slowdown. However, condo development has taken kind of the opposite turn, which is new for downtown or even this region. We haven't seen condo developments at the pace we have for probably a decade or more, and also through branded development. So of course we know St. Regis and Pier 66 opening, that's our own brand here locally, but having also the Viceroy, Andare by Related, these are some higher level brands that I think are also driving some more attention from out of market buyers, which they have to come here and stay to really get to know what they're purchasing. But we're also seeing some short-term rental condo mixes being proposed, whether that's a Nativo brand. So I think that's interesting to see how that plays out. It was always the hotel condo, but how that works now in this new market. One of the things that we're really focused on at the DDA is it's pretty basic, clean and safe. We want, whether you're a resident here, employee, but particularly the visitors, to just see this destination as being well kept, at a higher level of service. So you look at the Riverwalk, for instance, us working with the city of Fort Lauderdale, making sure the capital projects are happening on time, on budget. Our best amenities should be cared for, like all of your wonderful private properties. We're about to move to about the 50% mark on our Huizinga Park project, which I think, like the McNabb House and Gardens, our goal at the DDA is when we're complete with Huizinga Park, we're going to have the best network of urban public parks in Florida. So that becomes a real amenity and asset for visitors as well. Highly programmed, hospitality focused, just a very high level of maintenance and security. And when people visit, our public spaces are what should really shine, in addition to where they're staying and eating. So that the park should open by the end of the year, early next year. And we're really trying to leverage a lot of the bigger events that happen to have some outposts and offerings in the park as well, and collaborating with a lot of our cultural venues, entertainment venues, to kind of create that as an outdoor space, not for thousands and thousands of people, but just really curated kind of intimate activities at the park. That's a quick update on downtown.
Great.
Hi, Melissa Milroy with the Galleria. So generally our traffic is related to how the hotels are doing. I think we saw some decent traffic in January. It's pretty cold out this past January, so that drives people inside. It's always good for us. Our Apple did reopen and they expanded, so we have a much larger Apple now, which was really good. Capitol had a good January in terms of traffic. Just an update, I think we'll know in about 10 days. The mall will probably be under new ownership within about 60 days, which is good. I'm excited about that. I hope that it happens. And going back to what Jenny was saying and a couple other people, I'm excited to hear from the airport. I hope that's the next meeting. I think that, the overall experience when we're talking about the destination is very important. And, the first impression when people come here is our airport. And just as a local, when I go and I see homeless people sleeping inside and, it's certain terminals, not every terminal, it's just gross, some of them, I'm sorry. And I just think we've really got to work with the city or the county on upgrading the experience at the airport. Just a comment, you talk about making sure the Riverwalk looks great. We need to make sure that when people come to the destination, it looks great and that's their first impression. Also, I know years ago we talked about signage on the beach. I know you were specifically just talking about 17th Street and traffic, but there really isn't any, directional signage on Fort Lauderdale Beach. That was part of when we sat on the BRAV together. We talked about that. But I think, just looking at the overall experience when people are here is super important and what they see. And then going back to, I know you talked about the airlines and not to be concerned, but, and I think we brought this up at other meetings. I know Joellen also did, but, I hope the legacy airlines, the Deltas, the Uniteds, the Americans are looking more heavily at our destination, because it seems like we just have all these low cost carriers that fly in here. And frankly, now Southwest, I can't even get a flight out to go see my daughter. I have to it's crazy. I have to go through 3 different stops on Southwest to get to where I need to go. So just it's my little spiel on the airport. And then finally, how much are we leveraging Brightline? Because I know, when people are coming to Orlando, obviously Disney is a big destination. We've got the beach here. So it's an easy trip. I'm just curious how much we're working alongside Brightline, because we do have it here. And I think it could be a good thing for us. So
If you think the experience is at the airport is bad, you get outside of that bus station
where?
at Brightline.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's like,
If you're in the building.
that's like
everywhere.
war zone out there. I mean, that's,
It's terrible.
I'm almost concerned I've had guests come up to me and were mortified off of Brightline. Okay.
really?
Absolutely. If you-
I've had great experiences on Brightline.
No, not on the train or in the station.
As they're trying to walk,
Oh, you're
they can walk them.
station.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
On the east side,
You're right.
yeah.
Right. So that's, but I agree with your comments and we need to, every touch point for visitors should be safe, should be clean, and should be a good experience, right? And that's what this destination have a goal for. Okay,
Tim, next to the Brightline station, the county owns, what was the state building?
that's right.
The bus terminal and the government center. So maybe there's an opportunity to push for some improvements to at least those
Yeah, for
properties.
We might need the DDA's help with
I
that.
think we can do Try.
You may know somebody.
Try.
Jim Pankella, Lagomar Resort. Quickly, I echo what Chris and Michael have said. You know, Q1's been very good for us, especially February. Q2, we're up against, you know, Easter was in April last year. Now it's in March. So that's up against some of our revenue. But again, cruises are doing well for us. The Disney cruises, I think they come in, what, 2 or 3 times a week. So we get them in the middle of the week, which is very good for us also. Groups, as you said, is very good right now. Groups have really picked up for us. You know, we're not the biggest group resort in town, but we still depend on them. Also, too, we're good through June. June has picked up for us. But again, we need to pick up in June because last summer was terrible. If we don't do better this year than last year, then we got a big problem. But so far, so good.
But James, I mean, we're fixing this with group.
Yeah,
So literally, like when you're saying transient's down, I mean, transient's down and we're just trying to fill it all with group. I don't think we're marketing anything for group here. You know what I mean? But that's what we're trying to fix it with. And then all this marketing is going towards transient and we're still fixing it with group.
So what do you, so would you rather lean more into group than in transient, or would you rather?
Well, I think I told you this morning, if you go on the website now and you go, you know, meetings and events, there's really nothing about any other hotel or anything. And I get it. This is a big monster that we need to make sure we fill up and everything too as well. But I always am one that advocates that how are we pushing group out to someone that's looking at the destination that doesn't want to be at a convention center? Right. Or should be something like that. You know, like here's a convention center. Yes, woo, it looks beautiful. Looking for a hotel for a group, you know, for your group, you know, looking for something different, you know, that should be an option.
Okay.
We also hired the Boucher Brothers for our beach concession.
Yes.
They're doing great. One thing about, you know, Fort Lauderdale in the past, being here forever, right? And whenever we had to send somebody over to advertise Fort Lauderdale in Europe, let's say, you always had to say 20 miles north of Miami. If you didn't, that was how they figured out where Fort Lauderdale was. You always had to say Miami.
Well, what's clear today is that we don't have a brand. Okay. I mean, we have 31 cities screaming their name and Broward County, and nobody knows Broward County. They know the greater Palm Beaches. They know Miami-Dade. They know Miami. They know Palm Beach. They know Fort Lauderdale, Plantation, Sunrise, it's so I would like to organize all of us and a bunch of industry leaders and sit in front of the county commission and say, we need to change the name of this destination, in my opinion, because it is terrible for our brand.
I mean, I identify what needs to be changed.
That's right.
Like, here's a.
Well, we got to start the conversation. Right now, it's no. So anyway, Stacy is, yeah. No. Stacy's not going to weigh in on that subject.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Good morning, Bobby Rodriguez, event producer, right in the heart of the Florida Renaissance Festival at this point. 3 weekends down and 5 to go.
Wow.
We seem to be on track to get well over 100,000 people this year. One of the things about the show is very interesting is that we've got low numbers in terms of out-of-towners. And one of our goals for the last few years, excuse me, has been to attract more people from out of town. And with the help of Visit Lauderdale, I think we're starting to accomplish that. And add to that, hiring some entertainment that happen to have strong social media influencers is also attracting a lot of out of towners. So we're excited about that. And that's it. Short, sweet.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Raylan Story, City of Hollywood. We are celebrating our centennial year this year and kicked off a series of Centennial branded events in January that are all going well. Hollywood was part of the Ignite Broward. Thank you to Visit Lauderdale for their support of that. And it really, I think, helped to expand Ignite beyond just downtown Fort Lauderdale. And so, and with it in Dania as well and in Hollywood, I think it really creates a unique opportunity to take something that is unusual in this digital arts and media and convey it on a larger basis across the county and maybe be a standout event that could be paired. So I really like your thoughts on that, Tim. It's been great for Hollywood so far, and we, look forward to continuing it. I think one of the keys for this success is the transportation connectivity with the Circuit microtransit shuttle connecting all of the destinations and making that kind of an easy way for people to plan out their visits across multiple cities. So Hollywood, a few things that have been touched on already, and just to give you a Hollywood perspective on spring break in Hollywood, our police department and fire rescue beach safety departments are geared up for that with, plans in place should that turn into a necessity to police that in a more intensive way. No big announcements related to it, but just aware that that is an ongoing concern and additional security and plans in place currently for that. The apartment condo situation that Jenny mentioned, we're seeing that exact same thing in Hollywood. So multifamily is a little soft in terms of rental, and condo, we're seeing several new properties that are either were planned originally to be apartments that are now switching to condo, or condo where we didn't see any of that a few years ago. So have that going on as well. And that's really it.
Thank you. Stacy?
Can I go with that?
Yes, please do.
Thank you very much. So a couple things. The airport. There's a lot of firepower around this room. Go talk to your county commissioners. If they don't hear from you, they don't know what's going on, and they don't know what is bothersome or upsetting to you. You got to talk to them. We can carry your message till we're blue in the face, but we're just staff. You are not. You are the constituencies that they need to hear from, which leads me into the call to action I'd like to leave you with today. The taxi situation in Broward County is a disaster. I always take a taxi home from FLL because I don't want to wait for a Lyft or an Uber for 40 minutes, even though they just moved where Lyft and Uber will pick you up from at the airport. I don't want to wait. So I always take a taxi because they're right there. Inevitably, 3 times out of 4, the credit card machine doesn't work. The air conditioning doesn't work. Last night I flew in from Dallas, and the taxi driver had a coat draped over the credit card machine so that if you did not live here and you were a visitor, you wouldn't have known that you could even pay by credit card. So at Broward County, the commission, they regulate taxis. Our taxi ordinance is much looser than Miami-Dade or Palm Beach, to the point where taxis are only inspected once a year externally. There is no requirement to inspect a taxi internally. They just can't be unreasonably dirty, whatever that means. And we all have probably a different definition of what that means. So the taxis, when they are inspected, they're, as I said, only externally. So they kick the tires, and there are stories from the guy who runs the division in Broward County where taxi drivers will switch tires, so that if your car is being inspected, you can get my tires, which are brand new, and yours, which are bald, and then we switch back after the inspection. And it only happens once a year. It's not going to change unless you all talk to the county commissioner. So I implore you, as I will to the TDC tomorrow, when the mayor will be in the room, talk to your county commissioners about the situation at the airport. Tell them, we all know it's, but they don't look at it necessarily from the perspective that you do, which is the visitor perspective. So please, I'm just imploring you, please talk to them and use your firepower, use your voices these are your elected officials too, to tell them how what you think of the situation, which by the way, we all agree with you about, but again, we're staff and just don't have the kind of juice that you guys do.
Stacy, do you need someone to, I mean, if we had a template or a draft, do we need to request that of your team as to what the concerns are and say that we asked for that, and then we can actually use that to put out so that we all know the right things to say?
I don't think that you necessarily want us involved in that detail, because again, we're staff. But it's easy to get on a commission agenda. You know, as a delegation, you just go talk to them for 3 minutes about your concerns, or you talk to the mayor or your particular county commissioner and say, you know, we'd like to have a motion to discuss X, Y, Z. And then we can talk, and then we can connect you with the guy who runs the division at the county. And he will tell you the horror stories that he's told us and how we compare to Miami-Dade and Palm Beach. Not favorably compared to them.
I agree with what Stacy said. I think that as a whole, the hospitality community does a very poor job of communicating our needs and our demands to the county commission. And I would like to start and maybe this is at the coalition. Maybe it's a committee under the coalition who anybody at this table is more than happy and able to join our conversation, and then get specific items, whether it be branding, whether it be taxi, and go with a list. And we meet every commissioner. We have not done that. We only do it when something at the TDC is under fire or something like that. So I think we need to absolutely do that.
Would the mayor be able to attend our event, Mac?
Yeah, well, I see him tomorrow at the TDC, so I communicate everything we talk about.
And then
Yeah,
But it's unlikely that
he
he
will.
will.
unless it's election time.
And the mayor's term limited out anyway,
Yeah.
26. So he's not running again. But it is much more, I think it's much more impactful when you go see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be a commission agenda. If you don't want to stand up in front of the television set and talk to them, just go make an appointment with your own. You don't have to see all 9, see your one.
I think that's more important is actually going and seeing them in their office. I think it's much more, well, what did you prefer when you were a commissioner?
I prefer you to stay home.
Yeah.
Can't do it anymore. And by the way, we're happy to go with you.
Yeah.
We're happy to go with you and support you because we believe that the issue is important. We just don't think that it's a staff-driven issue.
Right. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Motion to adjourn? So moved. All right.